Welcome. Find a comfortable place to lie down or to sit, and let your breath settle into a slow, steady rhythm. Imagine the familiar hum of human life slowly fading, the distant honk of traffic, the soft glow of lamps, the flicker of screens, and imagine that one quiet morning, everything simply stops. There is no fanfare, no sudden thunder. The world exhales and the work of humans pauses. For a moment, the planet holds its breath with you. In that first stillness, the immediate difference is small and intimate. Doors remain unlocked, pets sleep where they are, lights remain on until the batteries die or the grid finally blinks out. Automatic systems keep running for a while. Pumps, cooling fans, and traffic lights all persist as stored energy allows. Water keeps flowing through some systems, and kitchens cool slowly. This is not a silent apocalypse, but a patient dimming, a slow stepping back as machines and systems wind down and natural processes reassert themselves. The first days bring small, tangible changes. Without people to maintain them, soil in low-lying tunnels begins to carry water differently. Subway stations fill with rain and leaves. Roads, engineered to channel water away, begin to fail when buried drains clog with leaves and silt. Plants note new opportunities. Mosses colonize damp concrete. Grasses push through hairline cracks, and vines find the edges of walls to climb. These earliest moments are quiet, almost imperceptible, but they are the first notes in a long chorus where nature gently reclaims what we left behind. Breathe slow and imagine now the weeks and months after the last person walks away. Within a season, unattended lawns grow into tangles. Suburban gardens overflow into the street. Seeds long dormant in potted plants or buried in soil wake and send shoots upward. In cities, unchecked drainage leads to flooding of subway tunnels and low-lying neighborhoods, and the salt of coastal spray begins to gnaw at metal. Roofs that require regular maintenance start to leak as gutters fill. Birds, insects, and other animals seize the new opportunities. Rats and pigeons continue in familiar ways, but predators also expand into formerly crowded spaces. Coyotes and foxes take advantage of quieter roads to travel farther. Without people to chase them off, deer may move into suburbs and nibble on ornamental vegetation. In many places, domesticated animals either perish or adapt. Some pets may fend for themselves. Some livestock suffer without care, though in some regions, feral populations may form. On a structural level, smaller, less maintained buildings begin to collapse within decades. Wooden houses, unheated and unresolved, rot fast. Winds find weak points and pull shingles and tiles away. Mold and fungi accelerate decay. Bridges and overpasses with exposed cables or joints begin to corrode where water pools and protective coatings fail. In general, many small and poorly maintained structures yield to weather in a matter of decades, but massive stone, concrete, and steel structures can last much longer before their foundations fail. This pattern, fast reclamation of the small and gradual decline of the large, will repeat across the centuries. Now imagine a city after a decade of absence. Streets that were once cleared of weeds now bloom into green corridors. Pavements crack as grass and saplings lift slabs. Trees widen their roots beneath asphalt, buckling roadways into new streams. In humid climates, molds blacken facades. In desert cities, sand and dust march in, burying cars and filling empty rooms. Public transit tunnels, once pumped and lit, flood with groundwater and become subterranean rivers. Saltwater intrusion eats at coastal infrastructure. Unmaintained seawalls and levees succumb to storms more easily. Airports become fields as grass pushes through runways, and terminals become nurseries for vines and saplings. Concrete, glass, and steel, the durable materials of human civilization, do not vanish overnight. They erode, spall, and rust. Buildings withstanding the weather for a few decades may remain recognizable as shells, but nature softens their edges. Windows shatter, frames sag, and facades collapse slowly into piles that become habitats for fungi and small animals. Perhaps the most symbolic change is sound. Without engines, air conditioners, and the chorus of human voices, the soundscape shifts. The audible world becomes richer with birdsong, wind in new forests, and the distant movements of larger animals reclaiming the roads, parks, and plazas. Over decades, urban centers will be more structured by biology than by pavement, and a new ecosystem will settle in layered with the ruins of human design. Breathe deeper and picture the landscape 100 years later. In many regions, most wooden houses have collapsed, roofs caved in, and gardens have become forests. Concrete buildings, especially those made of reinforced concrete, hold on longer, their forms etched into the landscape as skeletal reminders. Steel-framed skyscrapers begin to show serious corrosion where protective coatings have failed. Elevator shafts fill with water. Internal structures rust and shift. Yet some artifacts are tenacious. Ceramics, glass, and some plastics can survive centuries, scattered and embedded in soil. Asphalt fragments persist in patches, and the shape of roads may remain visible from above as darker green corridors, where the soil compacts have led to different vegetation patterns. In dry climates, monuments and stonework can persist for many centuries with less alteration. In wet climates, weathering and plant growth accelerate the removal of surface details. One of the more enduring legacies of our time in orbit is the wealth of artificial objects circling the planet. Many low Earth orbit satellites and debris gradually lose altitude and re-enter the atmosphere within years to decades, depending on altitude and solar activity. Higher altitude objects in medium and geosynchronous orbits may remain for centuries or millennia. Without station-keeping maneuvers or deorbit procedures, the heavens themselves slowly fill with dark lifelines and returning fire in the form of re-entering objects long after human voices fade. The science around orbital lifetimes shows that debris below about 600 kilometers tends to fall within a few years to decades, while objects higher up can remain much longer. Let your mind settle into the calm of centuries. Where lawns and arable fields once were, secondary forests now stand. Ecological succession, the slow, methodical building of ecosystems over time, proceeds with textbook patience. Herbs and grasses colonize first, then shrubs, then young trees, and eventually mature forests shaped by the local climate and soil. Former farmland may return to grassland or woodland depending on rainfall patterns and soil resilience. Soil chemistry and compaction determine the speed of recovery, but nature tends to steady pathways back to complexity if seeds and neighbors persist. Animals that were once restricted to pockets of habitat expand into new niches. Predators return where prey becomes abundant. Wolves, big cats, repopulate regions where humans once blocked migration. Marine life, freed from the pressures of overfishing and pollution sources that often rely on constant human management, can recover in coastal regions over decades to centuries, though some ecosystems will bear scars from chemical contamination and climate change. In cities, the rubble of human infrastructure often becomes ecological substrate. Piles of concrete and brick hold moisture and shelter, creating microhabitats for mosses, lichens, invertebrates, and nesting birds. Over centuries, these ruins can become integrated into forested landscapes. In places where soils are thin, wind and rain gradually grind down concrete into rubble that feeds new soils, and plant life steadily converts a human landscape into a biological one. There is more to recovery than mere greenery. Some changes are slower or irreversible on human timescales. Extinct species remain extinct. Radioisotopes and some chemical contaminants decay or dilute, but may persist in local hotspots for generations. Yet the general trend toward increased biodiversity in many areas is a persistent theme in long-term ecological models and thoughtful reconstructions of post-human biomes. Now breathe slowly and imagine 1,000 years passing. The scale of human impact has been etched into geology in some places. The course of rivers may have been altered by dams and then slowly restored as concrete fails. Coastal cities may have been reshaped by sea level and storm action. Places once settled by millions may be wetlands. In many temperate regions, forests that started on lawns and streets have matured into old-growth stands with layered canopies and deep litter layers. Some of our most iconic constructions, dams, large bridges, and massive concrete facilities, may still be discernible, though heavily eroded. Substantial stone structures, like monuments that were maintained for centuries, may still stand in recognizable form, though weathered and encrusted with life. In contrast, lightweight materials and many plastics fragment into microparticles, seeding soils and waterways with traces of human chemistry that will remain measurable for millennia. In the oceans, some human artifacts may persist far longer. Shipwrecks, deep-sea infrastructure, and long-lived plastics form deep-water legacies. Meanwhile, at high altitude in orbital space, some debris will remain as long as gravitational and solar wind processes allow. Objects above about 1,000 kilometers could persist for thousands of years unless perturbed. As you sink deeper into the long night, imagine 10,000 years, 100,000, and then 1,000,000. Geological processes, erosion, sedimentation, tectonics, slowly obscure most surface marks of a civilization that lasted only tens of thousands of years. Rivers alter their channels, coasts migrate, and tectonic plates quietly shuffle the remnants of our built world into new contexts. Yet in some places, traces persist, artifacts buried in sediment, pockets of altered soil chemistry, and especially the fossilized remains of our massive constructions can endure as unusual anomalies in the rock record. Biologically, many species recover their ranges over these timescales if climate permits, but mass extinctions leave a scar that shapes future evolution. New niches open as former ecological pressures relax, and evolution takes its patient turns. Over hundreds of thousands or millions of years, descendant species may arise that bear the marks of environments reshaped by human activity, long after the original creators have vanished. It is in this deep sweep that the subtle, surprising ways humans altered the planet become part of the planet's slow biography. Layers of sediment may contain microplastics and isotopic anomalies. Coral reefs may regrow in changed ocean chemistry, and fossilized cities, if buried under the right conditions, could be found by far future beings or future scientists of our own lineage as a puzzling stratum of unusual material. The planet's memory is long and layered, and while the visible signs of our cities fade, the fingerprints remain in subtle geological ways. Allow your thoughts to rest on machines for a moment. Without human operators, many technological systems fail quickly. Others continue until their energy supplies dry out. Satellites in low Earth orbit experience atmospheric drag and will re-enter in years to decades, depending on altitude, while higher satellites persist much longer without station keeping. Policies for spacecraft disposal typically aim for deorbit within decades, but without human control, many objects will remain in orbit for centuries or more. The heavens, then, will be a long-lasting archive of our technological era, some objects slowly raining down as sparks, and others floating for ages. Nuclear power facilities are a particular case that demands careful attention in any sober projection. Many reactors are engineered to shut down safely if grid power is lost, and automatic safing systems can stop power generation. Yet, the decay heat in recently operated fuel requires active cooling for days to weeks. Backup systems may extend that window. But as batteries drain and pumps fail, the risk of overheating increases. While modern reactors have multiple safety layers, and many would likely enter a safe state rather than catastrophic meltdown, the risk of localized accidents cannot be ignored. The longer view suggests that radioactivity in some locales could be a persistent, local hazard, but global outcomes vary by design, geography, and the state of local infrastructure. Now gently imagine the kinds of life that thrive in our absence. Some species are immediate winners, generalists that tolerate human proximity and disturbance thrive early on. Over longer time frames, a mosaic of biomes emerges that reflects both regional climate and the legacy of human modification. Wetlands rebound where agriculture is abandoned and water returns to old floodplains. Grasslands reclaim cities in arid regions where soil permits. Invasive species that flourished with humans may spread farther and become part of new ecological networks, while specialist species that depended on human presence decline. Remarkably, ruins and relict human structures can become crucial habitat for new ecological relationships. Bat colonies in cathedral naves, lichens covering towers, and fish using the submerged ribs of bridges as reefs are all plausible and observed patterns in places humans have already partly abandoned. Over centuries and millennia, new mutualisms appear, organisms exploiting the microclimates created by ruins, soils altered by human activity, and the heterogeneous patterns we created across landscapes. And yet there are losses we cannot undo, extinctions that occurred before the final day of humanity remain. Species gone forever do not return, and their loss shapes future ecosystems in permanent ways. Still, the overall arc is one of renewal. Given time, life tends to diversify again, and the planet does not stay empty. It changes, often in ways we did not anticipate, and in that unpredictability lies a kind of grace. Ecological recovery is neither tidy nor complete, but it is persistent, resilient, and continually creative. As we finish this long imagining, breathe slowly and picture the world many generations from now. Green, noisy in different ways, and alive with forms that no human designed. The artifacts of our time are still there, but integrated into a mosaic that is now more biological than mechanical. The rivers have learned to bend without dams in some places, and in others our engineering marks remain as curious anomalies in the landscape. The planet is both healed and changed. There is a gentle lesson in this vision. Earth without people is not a world of perfect recovery or utopian healing. It carries scars and reveals consequences stretched out across centuries. But it is also a world of resilience where, in many places, life returns to abundance and complexity in ways that surprise us. To imagine an Earth without humans is not an exercise in despair. It is a meditation on the planet's capacity for regeneration, on the humility of human plans against geological time, and on our responsibility as temporary stewards. As you let your thoughts settle, consider the tender paradox. We shape the planet in bold, immediate ways, yet the planet reshapes us only in the long run. In our absence, Earth will continue to be a dynamic place, alive, shifting, and renewing. That knowledge can guide us now, to steward more carefully, to cherish what we have, and to act with the humility of those who know the world will go on without them. Breathe, rest, and let the image of a green, noisy, reclaimed Earth hold you in a sense of awe and gentle hope.